everybody, welcome back to another episode of Build It with Tim, where I take your suggestions and I build it live and I build it on the fly. This week's episode is actually a suggestion that comes from me. Today, we are going to be looking at OpenAI and how to build a pipe and utilize their API in order to do some really kind of just straight up crazy things within an application. So, if you're unfamiliar with OpenAI, it is essentially what it sounds like. It's an artificial intelligence API. It's become pretty popular recently with image generation, which is just wild to look at. And I started to experiment with this inside of an application by building a pipe with it, and it's really cool what we can do with it. So we're going to take a look at just a couple simple examples in this app. Um, but obviously they have tons of stuff that you can do with it, and I'll let you kind of explore after we set up the basics. Okay, so as usual, we're just going to take a look at the finished product, which is really, in our case, just going to be submitting a form and having OpenAI answer some questions for us. And then I'll show you how to set it all up. All right, so I'll see you in the builder. Okay, so the finished product, again, similar to other videos that we've had for Build It with Tim, the finished product is not so much what we're looking at in front of us on screen right now. It's what's happening behind the scenes when we actually submit this form. So we have added a pipe to this form to communicate with OpenAI. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to paste in a large block of text, and you're going to have OpenAI summarize this for us and give us a smaller description. So I can save this form and it's going to give us a response that summarizes the text that I gave as an input. All right, in order to get started, before we even get to the builder, let's actually set up our OpenAPI account. So I've already gone ahead and created an account. In order to create your own and get access to the API, you're going to have to visit openapi.com and click on the API link up here to get started, the sign up button, and follow all the instructions, and you'll be good to go. Once you actually create your account, please keep in mind that you're going to just have access to a free version. So you're going to be essentially using your API requests are going to be working off available credits that your account has. So there are going to be some restrictions to how often you can actually place API requests. And limits and what the responses can be and so on and so forth. But take a look at all the documentation here and see for yourself what you're able to do. And if you want to implement this in your app in a larger capacity, then obviously it's going to cost a little bit of money. So they have a lot of pre-built examples, and we're going to be looking at a couple of these examples here today. Number one is the question and answer, and number two is the TLDR summarization. But they have some really wild stuff here. Stuff to do with coding, so write Python strings, JavaScript strings, SQL queries, grammar correction, extracting keywords, lots of really neat examples to play around with here. But like I said, we're going to start with the Q&A and the TLDR summarization. So to actually get started with this, they have this awesome open in playground feature, and we'll check on that in just a second. But quickly, I just wanted to show you some of the things that we're looking at here. Here in the settings, you can see there's all sorts of different information about what engine we're going to be using, max tokens, temperature, top P. Okay, these are specific to OpenAPI, and they have really great explanations on what these things actually mean. But this is essentially everything that we're going to be adjusting in order to use different models and get different responses depending on the inputs that we give it. So I would suggest looking at their documentation for those 6 items there in order to better understand what they are and what they mean. Okay, but when we click on Open in Playground for any one of these examples, you can see that we can test this out and it's going to give us a response. Okay, and then we can view the code up here in order to convert this into our pipe. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start to look at this. All right, so back in the builder. Back in the builder, we are going to we're going to go to the pipes section, and we are going to add a pipe. Okay, and we can call this OpenAI. We'll save that, and we're just going to add a single API call right now. So let's see, we're going to start with the TLDR, so we'll just call it that. And now we're going to reference the playground code in order to help us here. So we're going to do view code, and this is going to be a post request. We're going to their endpoint of v1 and completions, and here is the endpoint that we can copy and paste. So if we take this, we're going to go to post, and we're going to copy that in. Okay, that's our first piece that we need for this API to work. The next thing that we're looking at here is headers. So we have the content type and the authorization. Okay, and then we're going to get to our actual request. So the request that we're going to send is going to be a JSON string or JSON object that we're going to send. So we're going to copy that, and I'm actually just going to, because I don't want to lose that one, I'm just going to put it in request, and we're going to change this to JSON, and we're going to go to raw, and then we're just going to paste this in. All right, so we're going to come back to this in a minute, and let's finish up with the other things that we need to do. So we're going to add a header. The first one it said was content type, and we'll copy that and save. All right, the next one is going to be our authorization. So we do have the authorization tab within a pipe here, and we could add the token there, but we're just going to put it directly in the header um, because that's how it's kind of formatted here. Okay, so this is the key that we need for this header, and then the value is going to be bearer and then our token. Okay, so I'm going to go get that token, or my token at least. And this is coming from, we'll go to click on our account, and you should see a setting for view API keys. And that's what we're going to copy. And if you look at the code here, it says your API key can be found here. So click on that link, copy your API key, and then we are going to paste it right after this. It's bearer space and then your API key. And you can copy this format from the playground code in order to make this work, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then we'll jump back into it, finishing off the request. All right, so I've pasted in my API key here, this bearer token. So just to go over this one more time to be clear, we have the content type as a key for our first header, application/JSON for the value of our first header. And then we have authorization as a key for the second header. And then for the value, we're doing bearer, all right? And we're copying it just like we had in the playground code with a capital B, a space, and then our actual code or our token, okay? So after you're done with that, let's save it. And then we can go into um, the parameters tab. Okay, so if we go back to our request, you can see I've actually set this up. I skipped ahead slightly. Apologies for that. So if we have our prompt key here. So everything on the left-hand side of the colon is a key. Everything on the right is a value. We have our prompt that we need to pass. In the example in the playground, you can see it was this big long string about neutron stars, so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to pass a record value. So when we use a form component to insert a new record or create a new record, we want to take the record value and send that as the prompt. So for here, we are going to create a parameter or not create a parameter, but we're going to pass a parameter here. And in order to do so, we're going to do an open curly bracket and a closed curly bracket in between the two quotation marks, double quotation marks. And here we're going to we're going to just define this as prompt. Okay, so that's going to be our parameter. And then to finish that off, we're actually going to go back to the parameters tab and add the new parameter. So under the name field here, this is a friendly name, so this can be whatever you'd like. We can just call it like Open API input or something, or prompt. That's just for your use. Again, friendly name. And the slug, we're going to make sure that it matches exactly what we had in the request tab. So prompt, and we're going to match it just like that, but without any brackets. So no special characters. It's just text. All right, and we can save this. So now if we go to the text, and let me go copy that example they had from the playground. Okay, we have this whole bit about neutron stars. So if I pass this in, you can see here is our response. Okay, so we have here is the summarization. And in order to get this value and use it in our application, we need to map this API response. And in order to do so, we need to set up a response in the response tab. Okay, now without going into too much detail about how to properly map JSON responses here, what we're going to do is we need to kind of work upwards from where the value is and see the two keys that we need. So this is a value for the key of text, and this is within an object for the choices array. So we need to start with choices, and then we're going to map it, map the array, which is dot zero, because there's only one item in here, and then we're going to go to test. That is the key that we want to extract the value from. Okay, so we're going to make a new response, and again, it's going to be choices dot zero for the first item in the array, and then text. Yeah, and then this is the key we want to look at to get the value. All right, and we're going to call this just response for now. Okay, and we'll put the 200 code in here, and the 200 comes from right here, status 200. So we'll put this in just to be safe, and then choices.0.text. Good, I think we're all set. So if I go over to the page builder and we'll add a page, let's call this TLDR. We'll make a form. Um, Here we go, and then we want to, let's see, let's change the title of this. So we'll just call this prompt for now. We don't need to show the response field on the form. We do want to add a record rule because we're going to be triggering the pipe via a record rule when this form is submitted. So we'll add our pipe, go to OpenAI, select this call for TLDR, and then the OpenAI prompt parameter is going to be set from the record value of the TLDR name field. And then we're going to set our response to the pipe value of the response that we had just mapped. All right, so now if we preview this page, let's see what we got. Let's paste in our example here and save this, and this should run through OpenAI. And I forgot to add a component. So let's go back and add a new row, add a list component, TLDR, and we'll put in, we could put in both fields. We'll rename this again to prompt. All right, we'll update this, and then let me go back to that page here. We'll refresh it. All right, so now that we have our actual list component showing here, so here's the one that I just did, and then I just did another one. What's interesting, so they both summarize the input. I mean, it's not that much shorter, but it's cool that it's different. So depending on, let's see if I'll do it a third time, as long as I don't hit any of my limits here. There is a how many calls you can make per minute, I think. So yeah, all three are different. So it's really interesting that it can do that. Um, yeah. Anyways, okay. So the last thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna go and essentially we're gonna duplicate this pipe, this API call, and we want to do the question and answer because that one I think is my favorite so far. And to do that, I just made another data table. Okay, let me delete this little sample record that I have here, but I made another data table. We have a question field, which is a text field. And then we have an answer field, which is a long text, right? Because I'm not sure how long some of these answers might be. So we did that question and answer fields. Okay, now for the pipe, we're going to make a whole new pipe. But because with OpenAI, the only thing that you really have to adjust, or rather the only thing that differentiates the TLDR summarization and something like a question and answer is the value for temperature, max tokens, top P, and the frequency and presence penalty. So just by changing around these values, you get totally different responses, or like totally different purposes for using this. All right, so if we, I'm going to go to the OpenAI playground again, and I want to look at the question and answer, and I just want to see what the settings are for this. So I think I can just pull them. from here, yeah, max tokens 100, temperature 0. Stop sequence we're not going to worry about. That's not really going to apply for us here. We can't use this stop sequence character inside of our app. It's going to strip that value out, so we can't use that. We're just going to change the max tokens, temperature, top P. Okay. Max tokens was 100. Whoops, I need to copy this first. I'm sorry. So Q and A. All right, we'll go to our request and we'll do temperature 100. No, temperature was 0, sorry. Max tokens was 100. Top P was 1, okay. So if we do some, what is Google? Great. Okay, and this is the other really cool thing about this particular API is that the responses are all the same too. So we don't have to map a different response for the Q&A example versus the TLDR example. We can still just use the same response with choices .0.text. Okay, so we made this in a new data table, so we'll just do a whole new page. Q and A, and then we'll add that to the layout. And we'll do the same thing where we add a form. We don't need the answer there. We need to add the pipe. Whoops, set the parameter, OpenAI. The, okay. This parameter is coming from the record value of the question field. So a user types in a question, and then the answer field is populated from the pipe value of our response. And then we'll put our list in here to show the question and the answer. All right. Let's give that a try. So what if we put in what is Tadabase? Will OpenAI give us an answer? It does, which is really, really cool. So I'll give you a second to read that. It's a wonderful description of Tadabase. And we can go even further and say, what can Tadabase do? So cool. I love it. Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. So let's just go back and look one more time at all the examples that we see here. So again, I want to see. I want to keep playing with this because it's so cool. But I'm hoping that people can maybe have some. We can let's have a chat in the community, and I'd love to hear what people have to say about OpenAI and how they could potentially use this in their application. I think there's got to be so many different really neat ways that we could use this. Like this one, I don't know if anybody has like building an app for airplane flights for flight information. You can extract airport codes from text. Like that's so cool. I imagine this being great for like mobile usage too. Like you could do voice input and have it just extract different information. I don't know. There's a lot of things I want to do. I would say it's safe to assume we'll be revisiting this one again with Build It with Tim. But for now, I think that just about wraps it up for this video. Like the pipe is just so simple to set up, right? Because all we're adjusting to get different use cases is these 5 settings. That's it. We're just adjusting those settings. And the playground is awesome to you can kind of adjust them live, right? And it gives you great examples of what each one does. So yeah, anyways, I could go. We all realize that this is sweet. I just want to find more uses for it. So anyways, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week on Build It with Tim.